Well, hello, Darryl Davis again with another episode of the history of the Gosford Musical Society. Now today, I'm going to do something quite different. I'd like to talk about one specific show that we did called The Producers. Now this was from an original film made by Mel Brooks, a funny man, in 1967. Now he was the one that gave you things like Blazing Saddles, a very, very good run. Well, in 2005, it became a film, but before that they had it on Broadway. And in fact, in 2001, it ran for 6 years. And it won 12 Tony Awards, which is the most in all Broadway history. More Tony Awards than Cats or Phantom of the Opera or any of these great shows. It became number one. Our production was in 2009, and I was able to direct that one. We had a 4-week season at Laycock Street Community Theater. Now this is set in New York City, and the main character is a producer called Max Bialystok, which was played by professional actor Chris King, who was also the present theater manager at Laycock Street. A very difficult part to play. He had lots to learn, lots of songs, lots of dialogue. So it was a difficult part to do. Well, the show opens with the audience coming out of a theater that supposedly Max Bialystok's written this show called Funny Boy. And it was anything but funny. In fact, it was supposed to be a comedy about Hamlet. Although I did discover that there really was a comedy written about Hamlet called Rockabye Hamlet. I'll bet that didn't do very well on Broadway either. This is from a song called Opening Night. Well, Max has been outside and he's listened to his critics. They all come out and say, that stinks, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. So he actually sings a song called The King of Broadway, and he talks about all the difficulties that he's had. Now, if you have a look at those characters there, each of them would have played multiple roles in this show. Multiple roles. I found it very strange that in the movie in 2005, that was the only song I think that was cut. And I don't know why, because it's a magnificent song. Well, the next day, and I love this photo, look at the look on his face. The next day, this accountant comes, Leo Bloom, and he is supposed to look over Max's books, to look at if he's made any money or lost any money or whatever. He's auditing his books. When he arrives, one of Max's little old lady investors knocks on the door and says that she's there. So he tells Leo to go into the bathroom and he says, don't listen to anything that we say, which is quite funny. So he goes and he leaves. Well, the little old lady comes in. Before she does, he opens up this cabinet, and there are all his little old lady investors. You see, Max is a very rotten character. He goes, fleeces women. He lives on the earnings of these poor little old ladies. Anyway, there's Touch Me, Feel Me is her name in the show, played by local actor Margaret McGowan. It's a very, very funny show. He says, have you brought the checkie? Have you brought the checkie? And she said, yeah, I made it out to what you wanted me to. That's a funny name for a show, Cash. So he takes the money and takes off with it, you see. Well, Leo comes out and he has a panic attack because Max has touched his blue blanket. He has this blue blanket since he was like 3 years old. It's his security blanket. And so Max has touched this, and Leo goes berserk. He falls on the ground, and it's a very funny thing. Well, here we go. In this next one, Max is told by Leo something very important. Leo says, look, you raised $100,000 for Funny Boy. It failed, and you actually have money that you would have made. In other words, because it failed, you don't have to pay all these investors back. He says, with the right show, if you had a guaranteed failure, you could collect money from all these people. You could sell them 100% of the investment in the show. And if your show fails, you can walk away with the money. If it doesn't fail, if it becomes a hit, then you're in trouble because you got to pay, you haven't got 100% to pay everybody. So Max has an idea, let us do that. And he tries to talk in this thing, he tries to talk Leo into joining him. And he says, okay, Leo, let's cook the books because here's what we're going to do. And I love these lines from the show. Step 1, you find the worst play ever written. Step 2, you hire the worst director in town. Step 3, we raise $2 million. $1 million for you and $1 million for me. There's a lot of little old ladies out there. Step 4, we hire the worst actors in New York, and we open up on Broadway. And before you can say step 5, we close on Broadway, we take our $2 million, and we go to Rio. That's the plan. Keep that in mind. Well, Leo thinks it over, and he thinks, nah, I'm not going to do this. So he refuses, and he goes off to work. And it's here that we see him at work. He's an accountant, and he works in this horrible accountancy. Everybody is bored out of their minds. What's interesting about this shot from our show, each of those desks had wheels, and they came on very quickly, and they actually, as you'll see in a couple of slides, they go off. Everybody takes their desks off. And those data machines have all got handles. And when they're singing their song, they use sort of choreographed movements, which is really, really good. So we have Leo here with his miserable slave-like accountants that he hates life. However, as we see here, Leo's real dream is to be a producer, something he's always wanted to do in his life. And he sings a song called I Want to Be a Producer. Now this is so what's happened, these accountants have all taken their desks off. This fly has come in, as you can see there, the big pink fly, and the dancing girls come on. Now there's a very funny part in the song where Leo says, you know, if I become a producer, I can have you and you and you, and he gets down to the last person, which is here, which is a fellow named Alan Moore. And you see, the way it's usually portrayed, they have a really big lady that they put in it. It's supposed to be funny, but I thought it would be funnier if we dressed up Alan Moore as a lady, and I talked him into it. And so it was very funny when Leo comes down there and picks him, he gets very upset and he goes off, but it's a lovely scene. Now, high kick line. This show features some great dancing, and you can see the old Broadway high kicks as they're doing on I Want to Be a Producer. Now they're wearing, this is the Girls in Pearls scene, and they're wearing these, I think it's on the next slide, no, I'll go back. They are wearing these outfits which were designed by costume designer Leslie Norman, and they had pearls for hats and they had pearls for the rest of the costume. When they did it on Broadway, they said that those things weighed 20 kilos. They had all these really heavy objects on it. We didn't have that. Well, that's Leo's daydream. When he gets out of the daydream, on come the desks again, and on come the bored accountants. And Leo says, you know, I don't want to live like this anymore. I'm going to be a producer. So, Mr. Marx, you can keep your accountancy. I'm leaving. So he goes back to Max and tells Max, let's get this scheme in motion. Let us work together. And we have then, they've got to find step 1, find the worst play ever written. And they go through all these scripts. I mean, I wish I had time to give you all the names of them, but one's like a giant cockroach takes over the city. It's just silly stuff. And then Max finds the most beautiful one of all. And he says, and I'll just give you exactly here, he says, you know, I want you to feel it, touch it, kiss it. This is the greatest script of failure. This is gold, gold. So he holds it to Leo's face, and he says, the name, this will offend everybody. The name of it is Springtime for Hitler. It's a love letter to Adolf Hitler. Well, the next step then is to go and see the author who wrote this garbage and to get him on board. So they visit a guy. Oh, this is interesting. As they're going off to visit Franz Liebnig, who's a German, the problem was in this show we had a big set. So we needed to go from Max's apartment to the upper deck of an apartment building. And the problem is you cannot do that straight. So what I did was I actually had a white scrim come in, and I stole a piece out of Mel Brooks's original 67 movie, where they had the lady who looked after the apartment, the concierge. And so I had her then have dialogue with Max and Leo while they're setting up the scene that we're going to see in a minute. So that was a bit of, otherwise you sit in black all that time, and that's terrible. Well, this is Franz Liebnig. He is Liebkin. He is a very, very funny guy. He's a Nazi. He's living in New York. And he's here with these pigeons. Now, these pigeons all move. And we had 3 actors behind that pigeon coop, and they were moving the pigeons so that when he sang, they would flap their wings. And it really was hilarious. That particular prop has been hired out to a number of other companies who have done the producers. Franz is singing a song called In Old Bavaria, which is, his old homeland. Well, here we have Leo and Max arrive, and they're trying to get his signature so that he will allow them to put on his play. And he says, first, I've got to see if you guys are any good. So we're going to do Hitler's favorite song. And they did the Guten Tag Hopklop. I remember watching the 3 of them because the choreographer set that number, and it was an absolute hoot. It was so funny. And all of them did a great job on that. Guten Tag Hopklop. Well, at the end of that, Franz says there's one last thing that you have to do. You have to take the Siegfried Oath. That is that you will always honor the name of Adolf Elizabeth Hitler. That's a funny thing. They used the name Elizabeth for lots of people in the show. But you have to take this oath, which they do reluctantly. You see they're wearing swastikas, and you can see by that, Max is a bit confused about this, and Leo, he looks disgusted. But at any rate, they have these swastikas on, and they take the oath, okay? Now they have to go and find the worst director in New York, and they know one, Roger Debris. So they go to his hotel room. Now, when they first arrive, they're still wearing the swastikas, so they take them off, obviously, before they get caught. There is Roger Debris in the middle, and his common law assistant, like the common law assistant, who is Carmen Gia. They're partners. I want you to have a look at that dress. That's called the Chrysler Building dress, because the top of it actually looks like the Chrysler Building in the middle of New York. That dress one lady made that dress, and it took her weeks to do. And I got to tell you, that has been rented out to lots and lots and lots of people since 2009. Well, Roger says that he loved the play. He loved the play, but it was too dark and too gritty. He and Carmen say that songs in the show should be happy, should be gay. And so Max says to him, look, you can make this play as gay as you could possibly want it to be. In other words, he wants it to fail even, very badly. Well, here we go. Max, again, tries to talk him into taking the play, and Roger says, okay, look, I'll ask all my production team. I all live here. Now, they're all gay people, so they come down that stairway there, and they do a little bit of antics, and then they all get together and they sing, keep it gay, keep it gay, keep it gay. It's a wonderful song that they all do. Again, I had a problem where we had to move the set. That set of that interior apartment had to go to a different scene, back to Max's place. So what we did, we pulled the curtain down, and they did a conga line. And I had them go off the stage, up the aisle at the theater, and across the back, and did the conga while they were busily changing the set, which worked out really well. Well, they go back to the apartment, and there they meet the other main character, another main character in the show, Ulla. Now, she's got about 30 different names, which they actually mention in the show, but we'll call her Ulla from now on. She's a very attractive young lady. She's come to audition for a show, but Max is actually taken with her, and he says, look, we'll find a job for her. So she becomes the secretary/receptionist, which is very interesting because she's Swedish and she can hardly speak English, but she's a receptionist. So anyway, I think you get the idea. Leo falls in love with her basically straight away. He's very, very smitten with her, which is great for the second act, which we'll see. Well, she sings a song called When You Got It Flaunted. Now it goes from there where Max is now on to his next step 3, collect the money, get the money. And he's going to get this from the little old ladies. So we now go to little old Ladyland, where all these ladies come out. They're all dressed the same. And Max goes and he gets money from all of them, basically. And they do a wonderful song called Along Came Bialy. It started with Max in his apartment, and then again, everything magically disappears, and that fly comes in, and they do this song, Along Came Bialy. In this song, we find that there he is taking the money from them. Look at that outfit. That's fantastic. Red outfit. I think Chris actually had that outfit already. And it looks very good, and it looked great in that scene. Well, during the scene, all the girls, all the ladies have walking frames, and they do this whole song with walking frames. Now, we did put 4 guys in there dressed up as women. They were pretty ugly women, but 4 guys dressed up because we had a lot of lifts in there. They were able to lift some of the girls up, which was really good. That number was a real showstopper. And the other thing I got to say, at the end of that number, Max comes out and does a somersault. And I was always worried he was going to hurt himself, but he didn't. He didn't. He was in training, but it was great. And at the very ending of Act 1, he says, we've collected the money. I've got the $2 million. Now is all we have to do is, now we get the cast together. And so that is really, it comes up to intermission, where everybody comes on stage and they sing this final intermission song, the finale song, and then people go out, and when they come back, I'm going to share the next episode that I talk to you, I'm going to look at Act 2. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed the producers so far. Thank you very much.